Hey, good evening. The Design Review Board public meeting of September 12th, 2013 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones at this time. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff as well to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current Design Review Board agendas are available by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and Design Review Board appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that all appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the Design Review Board decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his discretion. In terms of a roll call, Board Member Herman is not here. Board Member Mardian?
Here.
Board Member Malikian?
Here.
Board Member Sarkisian?
Here.
And Chairman Simonian?
Present.
The report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on September 3rd, 2013. Oral communication discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. I have no oral communication cards.
I don't
Mr.
either.
Simonian, none as well. Which brings us to staff announcements. We regret to inform the Design Review Board and the public as well that Board Member Daniel Herman, our fifth board member, has stepped down due to conflicts with his work. So we want to thank Mr. Herman for he was on the prior Design Review Board as well, and so we want to thank him for his years of input and expertise, and congratulations on his new position and wish him all the best. So with that said, I would like to turn the meeting over to Chairman Simonian for tonight's agenda with 5 Design Review Board cases.
Thank you, Vilya. Welcome. Our first case is PDR 1309178, and Mr. Duong is the case planner. Go ahead and introduce us to the project.
Thank you, Chairman Simonian, and good evening, board members. This first item before you, as you stated, is case number 1309178, located at 3338 Deer Creek Lane. This is a vacant lot. It's one of the last remaining vacant lot in this neighborhood. The subject site is located in a fairly new subdivision that was created in the 80s. And all the other lots have been developed of similar size homes and style. The proposed project is a 3,525 square foot 2-story residence with a 3-car garage, and the subject site is about 7,838 square feet in area. And because this property is on R1 all-floor area ratio District 3. But because the lot has been previously graded as part of the subdivision, it has a slight slope. The average current slope of the lot is 12.66. And I would also like to mention that this case was last heard by the board on March 7, 2013, not February 28, as stated on the staff report. That was a mistake on my part. And the board had recommended a number of conditions and consideration for the applicant to address before coming back. So just to brief you on the project a little, in terms of site planning, the proposed residence is located centrally on the lot. It meets the setback required for that zone, 10 feet on the side, 18 from the front, and there's about 13 feet to the rear property line as measured from the terrace. The site plan is consistent with the adjoining properties and other homes in the area. In terms of mass and scale, this is a neighborhood that contains 2-story homes, and some of them are even 3-story because of the characteristic of the lot. But the proposed project is one of the smaller homes in the neighborhood. If you refer to the survey list. But in any regards, the appearance of the home is similar in terms of mass and scale to its neighboring homes. The proposed design is a classically influenced design. Again, this design is appropriate for this neighborhood, as other homes in the area also reflects this architectural style. However, staff believes that the proposed project is more authentic to the style than other homes that are in the areas in terms of its detailing and the quality of materials that are being used on this proposal. So overall, staff recommends approval of this project with some conditions, and if you like, I can go over those conditions as well as the conditions that were placed by the board previously.
Yes, please.
Okay, so there were 10 conditions and considerations. Actually, there were 8 conditions and 2 considerations. Number 1, the floor-to-ceiling height of the first floor shall be reduced to 10 feet from previously proposed 11 feet. Now, I'd like to make a correction here. The staff report stated that it has been reduced to 10 feet. In actuality, again, I misread the plan. It's been reduced to 10 feet 6 inches. So the reduction is not by a foot, but only 6 inches from previously proposed. The height of the front entry shall be lowered to fully reveal the shaped second floor accent window. If you look at the before and after plans that are pinned in the back, you will notice that has been addressed. The new plans are on the left-hand side, and the old plans are on the right-hand side. Number 3, the building and garage should be depressed lower than proposed in a manner that will not create a sunken appearance, but allows the building to follow the topography of the lot in a sensitive manner. This consideration has not been achieved by the revised project, and we'll defer to the board to deliberate whether this should become a condition again. Number 4, reconsider the design, height, and proportion of the garage door and its portal in relation to the overall design of the building. The height of the garage was increased and its width reduced. So if you look at the new plans, the top aligns with the 2 living room windows to the right, and the width has been reduced to be more proportional.
All right, Mr. Young, can you come up and point out that last comment, please?
So now you see this top aligns with the 2 windows of the living room, and this area above it has been reduced. So there's more surface area before, and the window is taller than the garage door opening. Introduce simulated grid pattern appropriate to the classically influenced design of the residence. This was proposed under option B, which I've pinned to the bottom right-hand side, the black and white black line drawings, which show simulated grid patterns on the top and on some window on the bottom as well. Number 6, the fenestration pattern should reflect a consistent window operation. This has been changed. All windows are now casement. The original proposal included sliding, casement, and fixed windows. Number 7, the project should look at the overall design to gain greater consistency in window size, placement, and operation type as a way to introduce larger windows at the rear elevation. And that has also been addressed. And you can see that the rear elevation, which is the east elevation, contains larger windows as suggested. Consider incorporating corbels for the balcony on the south elevation at the rear of the cantilever. In this case, the balcony has been eliminated at this location. Instead, ornamental details have been added, and they appear to be appropriate to the design. 9, the cantilever corners on the second floor as seen on the east and west elevation should be pulled back to align with the building wall, even if it creates an asymmetrical appearance. The voided space below the corners has been filled to create a symmetrical appearance as seen from the front, which is the west elevation, and rear, the east elevation. And number 10, consider creating either a symmetrical or asymmetrical building while considering the overall building design. And staff believe that this was also addressed, and the building overall looks relatively symmetrical, which is also indicative of this style. And the new staff conditions recommended, one is that the garage door should be a panel design, not one with horizontal lines as depicted on the elevation. And two, the color of the garage door should match or similar to the color of the limestone. And three, the building and garage should be depressed lower than proposed in a manner that will not create a sunken appearance, but allows the building to follow the topography of the lot in a sensitive manner. Again, this was a condition that was provided by the board at the last meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Do we have questions for staff?
I do have one, Mr. Chair. I don't. Go ahead.
So it's 29. Wait,
What's the old one?
23.9 here, 23.9 here. You had said that it was reduced by inches per floor?
That's on the section, even though the overall height at the front remains the same. If you look at the section, what the board had wanted previously is to reduce the bottom floor, which was previously 11 feet to 10 feet, and the applicant proposing 10 and a half. But I don't know how that translates to the overall height in terms of.
Do you know why they asked for that if it's not going to make a difference?
The point that came up during the last meeting was that there were concerns expressed by the neighbor and the neighborhood that the height of the house is higher than the other homes on that side of the street.
But that's not changing.
You know, the goal was to reduce the overall height of the house somewhat, but I think the architect would best be able to address how he tried to do that and why it may not have worked.
That was the same question I would ask, Mr. Chair, but actually the building has gotten higher in the back.
Yeah, and
Yes.
I'm trying to understand how does it got lower now that we have almost 2 foot higher.
Yeah,
And that's why we retained the recommended condition that the project be lowered, so to meet the board's initial desire.
But correct me if I'm wrong, did the building garage elevation was raised? Because I looked at the elevations, the numbers have changed. It seems like the building was raised. Because in the back, you have a larger crawl area than the previously shown. But we'll get into it, you know.
Mr. Duong, when was this case last heard? You mentioned it earlier.
March 7th, 2013, not February
And-
28th.
And which board did it go to?
That was board number 2. So the only board member that was part of that deliberation was Mr. Malakian.
Okay,
I'm trying to remember.
that's right. It's been a while.
I can remember. Try to remember.
Do we have other questions for staff? Very good. Then we'll go ahead and go to the public. Our first speaker is Sergey Saroyan. Sergey Saroyan? Yes, okay, we can't have cross-communication because it's being recorded, but I take it you don't want to speak at this point.
He wants the architect to speak first. Yeah.
Well, will the architect come up, introduce himself, and if you haven't turned in a speaker card, you could do so
I
afterwards.
have, actually.
Okay,
Actually, I have.
there we go. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, my name is Marco Brambilla, and I'm representing the project. In fact, you have a long agenda, and I think I'll be very brief because I do believe that we understood the comments from the last board, and hopefully we have incorporated those. And we have worked closely with the staff, and we do understand the recommendations, and we have no problems agreeing with that. There is only one thing I need to mention because it came during your discussion. I didn't even intend to go as long, and that is about the height of the building, which is consistent with all the heights of the houses in the area, and the staff has an average height of the area. We did reduce the height of the first floor, but we had a minimal area of the subfloor. So we had, according to the structural engineer, we had to add like 6 inches to that. Other than that, the height hasn't actually changed. and, we are happy to comply with the conditions as represented by the staff. So with that, actually, I'm at your disposal if you have questions. If not, I'll
Where
be
do we start?
in the audience.
Do we have questions for the architect at this
Yeah,
point?
I do have several questions. Okay, so you're saying that the height has been reduced, but when you look at your east elevation, and I'm trying to understand.
I did not say the height has been reduced. What I said is the height of the first floor has been reduced by 6 inches, not the overall height.
But it has increased.
No, it should be the same.
You have 29.8 on your previous east elevation. Now you have 31.11, almost 30.
It depends from where you are measuring. I cannot see that. May I come forward?
Yeah, of course. There's a pointer, Mr. Sarkeesian. Would you hand it to the architect, please?
So the same elevation point, this is east
Yeah,
elevation, east elevation.
Okay, but
So you have this 28.8, 31.11.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like measuring from the front setback, I have still 23.9 was the previous submittal, 23.9 is the current submittal, because this is where we're measuring from the front. This is like because the property is going lower, this is depending where you're measuring. So if you're on the street level, and don't forget, this is recessed from, depressed actually, from the street. So my
what you've
overall
done is
height here
you
is not...
Actually, what you've done is you've increased it. I know exactly where you've increased it.
Right.
Before, you had 49.89, 492.89, and then your finished surface was 49.50 at the property
Correct.
line, and then you have 23.9. So now you have a dead flat surface, and so you literally raise the entire building up.
Yeah, but it's, my overall, my body of the house hasn't changed. You're correct.
No, I understand, but-
This is reflecting the topography. Correct,
Yeah,
you're right.
But you're taking
Right.
the entire building
You're
and
correct.
moving it up almost 2 feet. And that was the whole point for us to lowering the floor so that you can actually lower the whole thing, but not raise the entire building. The second question is, we wanted the front entry to be lowered. I know we specified this to be visible, but essentially what I'm looking at, it's pretty much the same condition that we.
But we have lowered that. Both the door, if you see both the door and the archway and the portal in front of it, both have been reduced, both in size
But
and...
your top of this is higher, still higher than the railing.
That was not that was an architectural feature. I mean, I can eliminate that for all practical purposes. That was not a point of contention. I can eliminate that, but what we have reduced is the height of the door and the height of the portal. This was an architectural feature, so we certainly can eliminate that. But we have actually, this was supposed to create like an indentation. That was the only purpose of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have other questions for the architect at this point?
Please, I have the same concerns that, questions that both members brought up. The building has increased in height, and I just had a question to staff. Where are the AC unit locations?
While Mr. Duong is looking that information up,
Okay, go ahead.
we'll keep the hearing going because we have somewhat of a long agenda.
Can we
And-
find out why it was raised 2 feet?
I think it was somewhat vague as far as the answers, so what we could do is hear the rest of the discussions
Okay.
from the public, and then we could open up for discussion and go from there. Unless you're ready, Mr. Duong, I'd like to get going, but if
Yes,
you
sir.
have a quick answer, then we'll certainly take it at this
I'll
point.
wait for that answer. That's not...
It doesn't look like it's been identified, Mr. Mardian, unfortunately.
Well, maybe
Yeah,
staff
no.
could keep on looking
Yeah.
for it. So I assume Sergey Saroyan does not want to speak, correct? Welcome. Introduce yourself, and
My name is Sergey Soroyan, but I do want to speak, but I want to speak at the rebuttal, if it's possible.
either you or the architect will have an opportunity for the rebuttal, so if you would like to take
Okay.
on that, we
I'll take that
certainly
opportunity
will
for
call
rebuttal.
you up at the end.
Thank
Will
you,
do.
sir.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
And are we going with, Vilya, are we doing, can we limit the time to 3 minutes, I guess, on these? It would be 3 minutes. Okay. Kathy Wong is our next speaker.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kathy Wong. I live across from this new project, and I went away hopeful last time I was here that, the height will be reduced. But today I'm disappointed. I'm seeing that there wasn't any change. The height continues to be almost 24 feet high, where all the other houses on the same side of the street is 18 or less, I think. It concerned me very much, and that's why I'm here to speak up. And if they build a house with at least 5 or 6 feet taller compared with the other houses, it will stick up like a sore thumb, and it will not be look good in our street. And that's one thing. And my other thing is I'm very concerned because I purchased my house, the land to build the house 25 years ago with the expectation I get part of that view. Now that with 5 or 6 more feet higher, it will block that, And I don't think it's fair, for me to follow the rule, and the new owner doesn't have to follow the rule. So I'm here to voice my objection to the height. I'm very concerned about the height, and then it's gonna block my view. And I've been there for 25 years. I love my neighbors. My neighbors are here, and all of them have signed the list. I think you have it from the last meeting, and to oppose to the. I believe they are opposed to the height issue as well. I think I'm sure it's gonna be a beautiful house. I have no objection to any of the design, but I am strongly opposed the height issue. I am a co-owner with my sister. She also have written a letter. Do you guys want to take the letter?
You could certainly give it to staff, yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. David Hartunian. Welcome.
Well, David Hartunian, and I'm going to speak for, I think, the 11 homeowners that signed off on the petition that were somewhat against the height restriction. And actually, when I saw these new plans today, I was somewhat disappointed, to be honest, because the main focus of our discussion last fall and last spring was to address the height and to present a somewhat kind of a uniform quality to the neighborhood, which we don't feel this building is going to present. So we feel like, none of the voices of the neighbors have been heard here, and we've actually taken a step backwards. So we don't understand why it was raised now, since that was our major focus of concern. And I wouldn't, have 11 signatures put together on a piece of paper if that wasn't a primary issue. So here we are, and I don't know how the height, really, the code works, etc. But I know that the homes that they feel like are the same height have a different setback and are a little bit lower than the street level. So here we are, back at square one. I don't think we've gained any momentum in kind of making a uniform structure here. So that's my case. And other than that, I presented last time the original grading plan of the developer. I think those height restrictions originally were at 16 feet. But now, of course, time goes on and things change. We understand that. But a uniform size would be ideal here, and it would be fair to the rest of the homeowners. A lot of people are going to get their views blocked. The values of the homes are going to go down, and we just don't think that's fair. Other than that, we don't mind the design, and that's unique to the person, and, commend the architect's, approach, his taste, and we have no objection to the design. Everyone's different, so we're in agreement with that, and our primary focus here is the height of the building, which is we've gone backwards on and raised the building on these new plans.
A quick question, Mr. Artunian.
Yeah.
The letter that 11 of the neighbors signed
Yes.
was an objection to the height?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Joe Ivazi. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm a member of a board in the county. In fact, I was there today. I just rushed home, take my tie off and everything else. Last time when I was here, in fact, the original developers. The city ordered them to come up with plans that the city will approve the height of the buildings. And I have a copy of it. I'm pretty sure you have a copy of it also. I had bought a piece of property. We're going to build a house there. The height, my wife didn't like, so we sold it. My brother lives right across the street from them. The lady sitting over there lives right next door. The height of this building will be 4 feet higher than where her building is. The neighbors, they like to see the house built in there. They don't want the neighborhood to be changed just because one person wants to have a 22-foot high building house. That's the only objection. They'll welcome them, except the height is really the main problem, and they shouldn't do it. In fact, the way that property is, they can lower a little bit and still have 22 feet, but not to block the views and everything else. It will not be higher than 4 feet higher than the neighbor right next door. So that's what the problem is. And I know the architect real well. I've known him for many, many years. He's done some work for me before. So any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
No, I don't think we have any more questions. If there is, we could
questions.
certainly call you back.
Okay, I'll be here. I'll be more than happy to
Okay,
respond to it.
thank you. I don't have any other speaker cards from the public on this case. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? No? Okay. Then we're going to go to Mr. Saroyan for your rebuttal. Please introduce yourself again, and welcome.
Hello, how are you? My name is Sergio Saroyan, and my mom is a property owner, and I'm here to represent my mom. Now, this is a very dear issue to me, to be honest. We bought this project in 1998. When people were buying houses in 1998, we were buying empty lots at that time. The reason why we bought this lot for one purpose, to build a house here. It took us 15 years to get to the stage. 15 years. The reason why it took that long, because I had to get on my feet. I had to set up the family for a future for everybody involved. Now, as I come here today before you guys, and honestly, I know this family really well. They don't know I know him really well, but I know him really well. David is a son-in-law, actually. He's not a neighbor. He's a son-in-law. He lives on Jackson. As a matter of fact, I don't know what he's representing here, as a matter of fact. He's representing us. Exactly. So make sure you're clear next time, David, about where you live and who you're representing. No, excuse me, please.
We can't have cross-communication
No.
because it's being recorded.
In 98, when we bought this property, there were a lot of parcels available over there. A lot of parcels. We bought this property for one single reason, sir, committee, because of a view. It cost us more to buy that property because, as I recall at that time over there, there were plenty of spaces over there, corner places, up over there in the little north. We bought this for a single view. If you look at our house right now, it's the smallest house on the block. And the height-wise, too, as staff mentioned earlier, it's an average of everybody else. Now, this family right here, we had 3 properties over there in Country Club at the time, in the same area. What did they do? They decided to sell those properties, or I don't know what they did. They chose what one they had. They could have had a view site, too. I didn't stop them. I didn't tell them not to. This is America. If you want a view site, yeah, you could go buy a view site. And knowing that they had 3 properties over there, they could have done the same thing, too. Now, my house being the smallest house in the block over there, I'm not complaining about that. Their house is about 4,500 square feet. Am I saying let me be the same height? No, I can't. Codes are codes, rules are rules, regulations are regulations. If I'm allowed to build this house the way it should be, why? That's how I want it to be. I'm not breaking any laws. I'm not breaking any regulations in that regard. Staff recommended this project already. We came here 6 months ago. We talked about this issue. My house is the only house probably in the Country Club over there that has no fireplace. Our alleys on the side are 10 feet long, 10 feet wide, I mean. Everybody else is a little smaller. Some don't even have alleys. Am I complaining about that? No. Rules are rules, codes are codes, and the following codes of Glendale regulation. Now, in regards to everything else that's involved, I seen some houses over there too that I didn't like design, stuff like that. I never mentioned about it. I never complained about my neighbors. I was always a good neighbor to all my neighbors over there. People needed to access my property. I always let them have the keys, let them access it. Why not? I was always good to them. As a matter of fact, as Mr. David just said, he has 11 petitions against the house. When I signed up for general construction permit, when I came to the same room, the family was right here too. Family was right here. Cedric was here and his spouse was here. We were right here. We were sitting here, and the guy said, we were complaining about the height of a house. What did I say? And the guy said, what do you call it? It's perfectly legal, within legal bounds of a house.
We need to wrap it up because we have
But
a full
can I talk about?
literally 5 seconds.
But I had 15 petitions for this, and but what they're doing, they're using negative recruitment against me just to get neighbors against me. Initially, if you look at your records, I had 15
Must cut
petitions
you
for it.
off, out of all respect, because if everybody goes
I'm
over
just
their
saying
time,
that, this
you're
house is going to be
frustrated.
built, and I'm going to fight all the way through to maintain it the way I want it. I don't want elevation to go down of this house at all. If I'm allowed that, that's what I want to have. And I'm not going under a house too, please.
We understand, sir.
I drive nice
Please
cars.
be
I'm not going to go under a
respectful
house.
of
Thank you.
the committee. Thank you so much. Okay. So with that, we're going to, I don't have my gavel, or I would have hit it. So it's missing.
We must find that immediately.
No, we're not. I'm sorry. What we've done is we've had comments from the public, so I don't want to get into discussion of it. I'm going to close the public portion, and I think it would be wise to start with Mr. Malakian because you were present at the previous hearings.
Well, I'll
And then we'll take it from there.
Sure. I'll try to remember as much as I can the discussion that we had and give my comments about what we have in our hand at this moment. So, it seems like they have met quite a bit of the conditions that we've set forth. There are a lot of inconsistency in the windows and openings and other elements there that I think the new design has definitely fixed those issues there. The symmetry was one of the issues that I had, which I think they managed to address those elements there. One of the reason that we started talking about the heights and other elements there to lower, maybe there's a room to lower the first floor and lower the second floor and so forth, is because, and I'm not sure if we actually asked in the hearing to be able to get a kind of an overall street facade rendition of all the buildings and then this building. I think I remember discussing that at some point. May have thought of it in my head, but I didn't, I guess, speak out. But projects like these, when they're developing against a or empty lot, and you're going against other existing developments, and one of the biggest issues that everybody has is a height. One of the important tools that it would help us to make a decision is a rendition of the street facade to be able to see and not interpolate of what the mass is going to look like. But sometimes, when we see those, we can make a decision of, okay, you know what, even though it's high, even though it's taller than the adjacent properties, it still meets the profile of what the elevations that are created along the street side. What I have right now in front of me is one of the biggest discussions that we had was the height. And what they've done is they came back to us and they literally raised the slab even higher than the curb. Almost a foot higher than the actual curb height along that side, because the elevations that we have along the south elevation is on the south corner of the lot. But the garage is on the north corner of the lot, and it actually slopes down as you go further towards north. It actually goes down almost a foot, if not more. And what the slab, the finished garage is actually higher now from the curb height. So they literally, not only they had it lower, almost a foot and a half. I calculated, 15% and so forth. They had it actually a foot and a half or a little bit more lower than the grade elevation. They moved that up, and that's where you see that 31 foot 11 inches of difference. I know a foot or two doesn't make a difference, but I think when you're proposing a project that is going within the context of primarily 1 or 1.5 story buildings adjacent to the subject property, that becomes a contention. That becomes an issue for me to be able to say, yes, you have a project and it works. I did a quick, I mean, this could have been done very simply, and I can put this up on the board. I did this quick analysis of the photo, and essentially what I did was I extended the grade across, straight line, assuming that the garage, this is one of the buildings. It's not the next door, but I'm just kind of giving you an idea. In average, because most of these homes, the garage is set down, and it's about the same height. So it comes out about maybe 4 or 5 foot, like, you know, if the finished floor is here. So you got a 7 foot. So you're looking at about 22 foot exposed section above the sidewalk. Well, what we have is almost 10 foot higher than the adjacent building. So I would feel comfortable if this project needs to be sold. I mean, if I'm supposed to okay this, I want to see this building in the context of the adjacent properties before I make the decision and say, you know, lower this. If it was lowered, if it was at least maintained the same elevation, at least we would have said, okay, you know, they didn't lower it. But they left it where it is. They fixed other issues that we had, and they came back. But now what we're doing was, you know, whatever we discussed 6 months ago, and I appreciate the applicant, the owner, saying that it's taken 15 years, but 15 years because of the proposal that is being proposed right now. You know, there could have been a simpler project, could have been a simpler in the front end and then higher at the end, so you're kind of stepping back, and then you have this all open windows and whatever it is. You can even lower it enough, maybe put a roof deck or something, I don't know. But it would have been, it's what we're dealing with and what we have as far as tools to be able to review and improve. So at this moment right now, it's taller. The intent of the overall discussion that we had in the past was lower the building. Now we're dealing with a taller building. So I'm not sure. I think we're going backwards, and I don't know if we were clear what we discussed and what we said. But and then the other one quick item is all the windows, all the openings have a really nice details around. I would recommend, if possible, reducing the garage size, or maybe doing something that you have a better treatment around the door. It just seems like it's just plugged in. It had a lot more detail and elements here. I wish they just took this and then just raised it up so that it would be in line and you would have been home free, but it just made it a lot worse, I think, than what it was. So that's my
Thank you,
thoughts.
Mr. Malakian. Thank you. Mr. Mardian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I concur with my colleague. Those are my first comments that I wanted to start, is that the building has been raised, but I want to go back and give a little history on this area. This area has been criticized over the year. These are one of the areas that we have the hillside guidelines. Although the CCNRs are expired, but there was an intent in the past to keep these buildings on this side of the street, lower. And if you look at the pictures in the neighborhood, 90% of these garages are depressed about 2 feet or so. And that's why we have a problem with the height. If this building, clearly the conditions that the previous board had made that considered the design of the height of the building, that hasn't been addressed, and that's my critical issue. I know the area is mixed architecture. It's interesting architecture. Some are good, some are bad. But, the quality of the design is reaching a high level, unlike the ones that they have tried to do this, but they failed because of the detailing. And my concern is also what Mr. Malikian said. I wish I would see the 2 buildings on each side with a true, with the elevation of the curb shown on the front elevation. What I see, this house being on a flat land, he's not respecting the slope. I understand the view. You have a view from that side, but also the neighbors have other views. Yeah. See, they're all, this building is no more than 18 feet high. And although the CCNRs are expired, but there was an intent on these lots that to keep the profile on this side of the street lower, and we should respect that. And I don't see that being addressed. And my main concern also is I don't see a slope at the driveway, section through the driveway, which is the critical part that you're talking about. And the plan shows me a box. These details that you're showing me on the elevations, I don't see them on the plan. These indentations, the stonework that is wrapping around, how are being or will be constructed. Now, I want to see these on the plan really, and all these corner elements. And again, on the side elevations, he has projections that are, the eaves or cornices are projecting out with these balusters. I don't see those on the plan. I just see a box. And I think that he could achieve this design, but he needs to play with it a little more. He needs to drop the height. Even on the pictures that you see on the story poles, you could tell the profile of the story poles versus the neighbors next door. They do not exist right now, but you see the change in the height there. I mean, I don't have a problem with the design. I think
this was the original. Now it's higher.
It's higher, right? I mean, I have no. This is an eclectic part of town which has various architecture. I have no problem with this design if they wish to, but they need to lower the building much higher and respect the street rhythm. And I would like to see all the details that take place here. How are these things are occurring? Are they just flush? If they are flush, then this design doesn't work. It will look like some of these other ones. I need to see these indentations on the plan, because that may change a few things and just going back to your comments, is the garage, I think that's the minimum width he could have, is 16 feet. I think the issue is the top mass on. And I'm willing to support this design, but not with the height that is proposed today. And I'd like to see the side buildings, like you said, to make a better evaluation on it.
Quick question. The cornices and details, elements of those nature, can it encroach into the setback?
Architectural details may encroach into the setback.
So all these, like let's say the balcony elements, the caps on the balconies and everything.
Correct. It's akin to a chimney projecting to the setback. It's looked at the same way.
Thank you.
And they're proposed to be of cast stone.
Thank you, Mr. Marty. And Mr. Sarkisian.
I concur with everything, and my question was maybe to the architect, why was it raised? We still haven't heard that. That would be my question, and why not lower it even more? Is there a reason why we can't lower it?
Okay. I assume that's a rhetorical question, right?
Well,
Yeah.
well, not necessarily. If you can get him up here and ask him that.
Well, let's see how this goes, and we'll see if we want to open it up again. Looking at the overall design and the process that you've gone through, we understand the process is difficult and it's long, and sometimes it's long because of the certain aspects of a site, whether it's too small or too steep or politically there's just not a desire for something to be built. And other times, that's not the case. The site is buildable, there's political desire for the home to be built. It just, the vision of the architect or the vision of the owner doesn't coincide with the overall design guidelines. So there's a slew of reasons why something could be built and not built and why something drags on. And I'm sharing this with you to at least try to, from a third-party point of view, to give you some guidance and background as to why you might be feeling what you're feeling. And we understand it. We understand it's tough. We know it's frustrating. And so there's codes, and so a building could meet all the codes. It could meet the height, it could meet the setback, it could meet the FAR, it could meet all the codes, but it could not meet a very crucial point of the design guidelines, which is compatibility. And that's what Mr. Malakian was pointing to, was the fact that this board has the authority to oversee compatibility and how a given building fits within the context. And that's very important to point out, because it's something that might not be readily understandable or readily accepted by, let's say, an applicant. However, that's the mandate that was given to this board by the city council, is design review guidelines were created, and the design guidelines basically guide us in our thinking and our thought process. And some of the comments that are being presented this evening are a direct result of those design guidelines. And so what the board has been trying to illustrate is the house is just too bulky. It's massive. And, you could look at it any which way, but that's what they're trying to tell you. And so you could listen to that, or you might not, but that's at least the message that's being illustrated. And as a building, for it to meet the design guidelines, it really needs to work with the site. It needs to terrace up a hillside. It needs to step back as you're coming from the bottom of the hill up. So it looks like a stair, as you would in section, not one big box. So when the property next door looks out, they could see past the corners of the house because it's being stepped back. You also want to create roofs that are sloped to be in line with the contours of the site. You also want to use colors that are in line with the surrounding vegetation and the gardening and so forth, so it blends in better. The idea is to blend in and not pop out, I guess is a good way to try to be very blunt. And so those are my thoughts as to why the process might have taken longer than it should have. As far as the overall thoughts and ideas, I'm very much in line with what's already been said. I have nothing new to add. And so I think the question in front of us is return for redesign or to approve with conditions. It seems as though the conditions were prescribed somewhat laboriously before, but they just haven't been met. And so those are the two directions that I think we could take, and I'm willing to certainly discuss it quickly.
Well, the only item that I need to make a decision is the context. So if you want to ask for that as part of the return or continuance, or I don't know, but because there are no poles there, so I need to kind of visually see what the result of this raised elevation is in comparison to the adjacent properties. So if I had that, it would have made my decision much easier at this moment. But right now, it's too high. So for me, they met all the requirements that. Well, I shouldn't say all, but they met most of my concerns. They had a couple of stuff outstanding, and I agree with Mr. Mardian about the detailing and other elements there. It's going to be make or break the project, because
Right.
it is a very simple box, and all it is just details of cornices and embellishment that it goes around the building, and without knowing what they are, is it just an attachment? Are they stone? Are they cutouts? Is it projecting out? It's not. So all of these details are details that are missing. So
In which case, it would be some sort of a continuation for additional information.
right.
May I ask a question, Mr. Chair? This was total redesigned from, don't they have to do the story poles one more time, or no?
This project is considered the same project because it
Didn't go over
within 6 months.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Well, Mr. Malakian is pointing towards a possibility of a continuation based on obtaining some detailed, I guess, facade rendition of the overall block. Does the board feel that that is what would be required, or does the board feel as though the design, even if that information is presented, is still lacking based on some of the items that's already been presented and written upon?
But, Mr. Chair, if we return it for redesign and we tell them to drop this building down, that's going to change certain things.
Of course.
So how do we, unless if he showed us to us.
I mean, we did that 6 months ago, they raised it instead of lowering it. So I'm not sure.
We can, I mean, I will support a continuous with providing additional information, but I do feel like, I
But
agree with.
I have to be honest with you. I'm leaning towards return for redesign to lowering the project. Continuing this, bringing it back with
That's
the
what I'm
same
sensing,
height
not
to
gonna change.
assure me that what I'm feeling is correct, because we had the poles there, and this was still high to us. I mean, look at the adjacent building compared to this. Now it's almost 2 foot higher.
Actually, 4 feet higher.
Actually, 4 feet
4
because
feet
of
higher.
because of the grade elevation too. So it's pretty simple. I mean, lower the building and get the project done, and you'll be done.
So,
I mean, I would take lowering the building, because a design like this in any other area,
but I'm
don't
sensing
think
there's
there's
some
a big-
difficulty between getting that message across. So if we just prescribe a condition of lowering the building, I'm not sure how much change we're going to get and how that's going to affect it. Because I think what we're talking about is somewhat of a different design direction as far as language.
Well, the lowering the building, it's going to affect the front. You're going to have steps. You're going to have different types of garage heights and different elevations at that point. It's going to affect the rear elevation. It's going to bring it back towards what we had originally versus what it's there now. So it is going to affect. I mean, I was just comparing the scales. They're both the same scale. It just seems so much more compact. And we thought that it was fine. They just lowered it a little bit more, and we were home free. But it's actually rose.
If that's the direction we're taking, it might make sense to give absolute heights for them to
I don't want to
come in.
give absolute height,
Which is
because,
dangerous in
because then
itself.
it's dangerous on its own. And you got windows that are, you lowering the lower portion of it. Now you got
Affect
windows that
everything.
are not proportioned to the height of the building. So you got.
Mr. Chair, if I may interrupt, look at the street here.
Yeah, I
The height is
noticed
pretty
those
much,
buildings.
even the ones that have similar style, it's consistent.
Of course, and it steps back on the second floor as
Second
opposed
floor.
to a box.
I mean, just, yeah, I mean, he could achieve a design like this, but he could manipulate the volumes of it. It doesn't have to be symmetrical.
That's, right there is a very simple, you got a garage and a one-story. Now, adjacent to that, you got a. See, look at that.
Yeah. Same thing.
Well, I'd like to keep this going, and then that said, what I'm seeing front of us is at least requesting the height to be reduced as a minimum, right?
Well, are we going with the return, or are we going with the continuation?
I just feel as though we went through this 2 weeks ago with that other project, the RISA project, where we asked for certain things and we didn't get it, and then we asked and then we didn't get it, and then finally we said no. I think that even if we ask for that additional information, your intuition is correct. It's going to be still too massive and too bulky. And so we're going to prolong all this, and then in which case we're still going to be faced with the same decision, which is return for redesign or just to prescribe some heights and let staff work with them. Dangerous to prescribe the heights just because it's going to affect everything. So my guess would be return for redesign. That's what I'm leaning towards. However, I could go either way on it.
So we can't lower the slab? I mean, they can't lower the slab, just like... Of
course
They could, yeah.
They could.
Yeah.
They can lower the slab, they can lower the first floor,
Can we
second.
go back to the next door house?
The immediate one?
One more? Yeah. That looks kind of the same height.
They're all the same height.
But it's, the slab is, what, about 2.5,
It's about
3
two
feet?
and a half feet. Maybe even more.
Based on
And that would
the
resolve all
dimension.
the-
The setbacks are more on those buildings,
Based on
adjacent
the
buildings are.
Yeah, they're a lot more. The building is going to sit a lot closer to the property line, so based on the dimension they have, they're going to be able to lower it about 1.5 feet, a little bit more than 1.5 feet, 1.6 or
But
so.
pushing it back another foot. Then the
That's
design
a-
doesn't have
that's
to
a-
be touched. It's just repositioning the building.
just like what they have done. So push the garage back to get a lower slab.
Yeah.
Another concern that I noticed, I mean, he has no access to the side yards from it's all, based on this, it's all landscaping. There's no way to get to this house from the front to the back.
And building safety is going to ask for that anyways through
So we're going to lose landscaping, and I'm concerned about the landscaping area to begin with on this particular case.
Do we have a landscape drawing?
Yeah, there is a landscape, but it wasn't on our packet.
I'd like for us to move forward, though, because we're running out of time and we have a very busy agenda. So let's go with our intuition.
Okay.
And would like to get a motion on the table.
I'll make a motion to return for redesign with primarily lowering the project. And we will leave it up to the architects, at least lower than what was originally submitted, not what is there now.
And reduce the mass and bulk.
Can we add conditions to that, including lowering the height to be lower than what was originally proposed at the first hearing, indicate on the plans and provide details about the ornamental detail, so we understand its material, its attachment, its projection,
Correct.
all that, and then revisit the landscape plan to ensure that there's access around the sides of the building without reducing the amount of required landscaping?
As required by building and safety.
You have
AC location?
AC locations,
HVAC location.
and also, I think he brought it up earlier also, is to have the elevation show the adjacent buildings with the true grade height of the concrete, the curb.
But I think you're looking for a larger context.
I'm looking, well, I do want to see how it relates to the both, is it north and south buildings?
Would you want to go five properties?
At least two. One on either side would be fine.
Okay.
One on either side should be fine. Because
Immediate adjacent ones.
Immediate adjacent
Yes,
to them.
yes.
Because the ones adjacent to the buildings there, they're all consistent. So if I can get the mass and feel what it is, then we would know.
Good.
Just one more thing. You had a couple of, staff had three recommendations. Garages should be panelized, so I agree with that. That still stands. I think the detailing or the molding around the garage door somehow needs to be addressed as well.
You mentioned that earlier.
And you are saying the building and garage should be depressed lower than proposed in manner that so that still stands and part of the overall.
And guess staff, you have your work cut out for you. You're going to be probably going back and forth with the applicant, but the idea is to not bring it back until we've achieved those overarching thoughts, really.
And then for the neighbor, or for the adjacent context, you're looking for elevation?
Just a street elevation.
Street elevation
Could be a
with-
photo
with-
montage.
Could it be a photo
Take-
montage with
Yeah.
accurate heights? Okay.
But I want to see the actual slope of the street in relationship to both properties.
I think they have that.
On the elevation.
Interplate.
Slope of street.
Are we supposed to get a rendering with each application?
We are.
There was one that I didn't put up. From
So you'll have a revised one.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Wonderful.
With the conditions.
So there was a motion by Mr. Malakian and a second by Mr. Mardian with the conditions that were prescribed just now. So this will be roll call. It's for return for redesign. Mr. Mardian,
Yes.
Mr. Malakian,
Yes.
Mr. Sarkisian,
Yes.
Chairman Simonian.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next case is PDR 1310508, 3616 Rosemary Avenue. And Mr. Duong, you are a case planner again.
Thank you. This item is at 3616 Rosemary Avenue. This is a proposal to add 294 square feet. This is a modern addition to an existing two-story house on a 7,600 square foot lot. The existing house is a corner property. It's on a corner property bounded by Rosemary and Broadview Avenue. Broadview Drive, and it is located in Spall Heights, the Spall Heights neighborhood. The existing house is designed in the Spanish colonial revival style, and the addition will match that style. The addition is located to the rear of the house, so if you're on Rosemary, you will not see the addition, but because this is a corner lot, you will see the addition from Broadview Drive. That's the reason why the project is before you. Staff believes that the proposed location of the addition is sensible and appropriate. It is set back away from the side street and behind the existing house, so therefore impact to the existing streetscape and rhythm of the development in that neighborhood will be minimized. In terms of the mass and scale, again, because this is a one-story addition, the mass and scale is not a major concern, but overall, the applicant has designed the addition so that it is appropriate to the existing architecture and how the mass and scale was addressed through via the original house. As I stated, this is a Spanish colonial revival style residence, so the addition will match that in terms of the finishes, including the two-piece tile roof, the stucco exterior, which will have some texture to it, and the windows will match the windows that were replaced a number of years ago. So these will be wood windows and casement with simulated divided lights. So overall, the design is appropriate, the location of the addition is appropriate, and the massing is also respectful of the neighborhood and existing house. Staff recommend approval of the project without any conditions.
Okay. Do we have any questions for staff? No. Very good. Then we'll go ahead and open the public comment. The only card I have so far is from the designer and applicant, Demaray Matthews. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Demaray Matthews, designer and applicant, and I'm here primarily if you have questions. I did just want to stress the modesty of this proposal, under 300 square feet and barely visible, particularly from the front, not at all. The front of the home is on Rosemary. The other thing I wanted to mention is I live in this neighborhood, and we've watched this particular homeowner care for this home that was built in the 1920s. It's already a beautiful home. They've done gorgeous landscaping, beautiful site walls, gate, and when they hired me, they talked at length about hiring the right kind of builder, a true craftsman, somebody who's going to really respect the character of this home. So I want that to be in your minds. And if you have any questions, one correction is that the windows that they replaced 6 years ago are actually true divided light. So it's wood, true divided light, and that's what they'll use in the addition as well. The perspective makes the addition look a little bit more massive than it really is. You know how that kind of warps. 3D models tend to warp things a little bit. So just keep in mind.
That takes me to my question, Mr. Chair. I have a question.
Yes, please.
So which came first, the perspective or your elevation?
Which came first?
Yes.
In terms of the design?
Yes.
Well, they should be the same. They're
So
not.
I just want to make sure which is going to go.
The rendering
is
the rendering is updated per the most recent plans.
So let me explain to you why I think your rendering should not be used and the elevation. See how this roof comes to the point right here?
Mm-hmm.
See how it's raised
And it's
up?
popped up.
Yeah. So is this what you want, or is this what you want?
I would rather it be popped up, but if the board does not like that, that's not a huge deal breaker.
I like this one, but that's fine.
I like undulation. I like to see variety. But it's a small area, so I can see your point. Keeping it simple would look nice, too.
Just for the record, in the Spanish, the pop-up would probably not be as common. That's
right.
Yeah.
Keeping the eave line consistent.
Okay.
A couple of questions for you. The material board shows manicured rafter tails. Is that the intent, or was that just to show the color?
I'm not sure. Can I take a look at that?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, no.
No. Are you going to have just square ones?
Match the existing, which are very understated square ones.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
And your stucco, is it going to be smooth finish or textured?
It'll match the existing, which is fairly smooth.
Do we have
A
any
little bit of texture.
other questions for the applicant designer?
I have the same concern that Mr. Malikian had, but she answered the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on this case? Nope. Then we'll go ahead and close the public portion. Mr. Mardian, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I think this is a modest addition. I think the applicant has done a good job blending it in with the existing. The only question or, condition that I would put on is to match the eave overhangs. The drawings don't show that. There's about 6 inches of overhang with the exposed rafters, so I want to make sure that matches the same as the house. And also the the gable vents, the tiles that are in the gable match the existing. I have one item that, if it's workable or not, that element that is popping out, it's very minimal on one side, but it's more on the other side. I think it should be a little more substantial, but I don't know if they could achieve that.
Deeper on one side.
This one here.
It's deeper on that side. It's right there versus there. So it's so small that I think it should be a little more. I think they have the room to do it. We'll give them a few square feet more. I think that will work better. Because by the time you do the tile and the return and all that, it's going to be very, very small.
Not as defined as it could be.
It could be, right.
Okay.
But I'll support the project when the time comes.
Right there.
Right.
Mr. Sarkeesian?
I love the house, and I think they've done a good job with matching everything and keeping the scale of the house. It doesn't feel like a huge addition, and it's not. But I concur with everything that's been said, and that would be nice if it went out a little bit.
A little bit more.
Even from the inside, it would be a little corner. But that's about it. I like it.
Thank you. I concur with the board. It's a modest addition, and you've done a good job staying true to the original style of the building, and the materials are of high quality. The windows, wood windows, is what we're looking for in something like this, in this kind of a remodel. And it fits well within the site. No issues, and as you could tell, staff had no comments as well. So I think job well done, and good luck to you. Do we want to entertain a motion very quickly?
I'll make a motion to approve the projects with the items that we stated.
Second.
Did you want to hear them back?
Please.
Suggestions?
The eaves on the new addition will match the projection of the existing eaves on the house. The projection will match the elevation drawing rather than rendering in terms of the overall height. And then the projection will be extended some meaningful distance, but not necessarily much more than a foot or so.
Yeah, a foot is fine.
To create more articulation at that facade.
Okay, there was a motion by Mr. Mardian and a second by Mr. Malakian. It will be roll call. Mr. Mardian?
Yes.
Mr. Malakian?
Yes.
Mr. Sarkeesian?
Yes.
Chairman Simonian?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 to approve the project with conditions.
That was quick.
Thank you.
That was quick.
The quickest one.
The record.
Oh, you can do better than that.
We'll try on this next one. Thank you so
Keep it
much.
on a roll.
Thank you.
Keep rolling.
Our next case is PDR 1316264, 2503 Allen J. Place. Mr. Collin.
Thank you, Mr. Simonian.
Thank you.
Members of the board, it's going to be easier to try and explain it from up here. This particular project is an addition to the first story. The existing house is 2 stories with the garage attached. The applicant's proposing to add 578 square feet, extending it toward this direction, toward the east, with an addition to the back, and in conjunction with that, popping out the garage toward the front. It's a very modest addition. It's matching all the colors and materials of what's out there. The existing house is considered like a colonial revival from that time period. We're matching, as I said, the colors and materials for that. It meets all the code requirements for lot coverage, floor area, landscaping setbacks, and so on. And staff is recommending approval of the project. We had one suggested condition, and that was for this doorway here to be paneled and the door glazed.
Or a smaller glazed area.
Sorry?
Just a smaller area of glazing.
Smaller area of glaze that's paneled. Okay. And
Or is there?
The one right next to the garage.
and the door we're talking about is right over
No, I
here.
understand, but the front door is changing?
No, right here.
Is that a window in it? Or?
There's no change here.
I think the existing door is solid.
Yeah. And that's one of
We
the
could
things
ask
that
the
caught my eye,
applicant.
is the red door.
That stands out. That concludes my presentation. The applicant is in the audience.
Thanks, Mr. Collins. Do we have any questions for staff?
Just about the door, is that a half light? The front door is being changed, or
That's what's being changed. The applicant will be able to address that.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. We'll go ahead and open it up. If there's other questions, we'll come back. Yes?
One letter in support that staff has received.
Yeah, we noticed that. Thank you for bringing that up. Ms. Agassian, welcome.
You. I just wanted to say a couple of quick words about the house. This house is very, very special to us. We got married right on that front porch. And so we truly love this house, and we want to kind of make it fit our family. I have two very young boys, 4 and 2. It's a handful. And so we just want to create a home that's going to be big enough for these rumbling boys, and we just appreciate any suggestions, anything that we could do to make this beautiful home become a reality for us. And we'd like to keep it in the family for decades, as did the Rodens before us. So we'd just like to bring it to the 21st century with a little bit of a big, large family room. That's really the main reason why we're making this addition, is to help us get together in a larger area, to be with our families and members of our family. We have lots of family members that come over for Christmas, and we just need to have a larger living space. That's much all. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Armen Kalerian. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, board. Good evening, city staff. My name is Armen Kalafian. I'm the applicant from ARPA Design and Build. We're a design build firm located in Glendale, 900 Western Glendale, California, 91201. Thank you for the presentation. I'm here to answer any questions you have. Just wanted to add something. We are actually proposing to change the front door, and that's something that we're open to suggestions. And I agree that both doors need to match. And one more thing, the family came to us because they wanted a larger kitchen and a family room. So the idea was to keep the character of the house, move the garage forward, and give them the addition that they wanted. So we tried to keep it true to the style and give them what they wanted. So I'm open to any questions.
I have a question to the applicant. At the rear, I think you need to revisit this. The window is too close to the roof. You're going to need some little meat in between with the stucco and all that. It's just, you're going to have a hard time making that connection. Either the window is going to get smaller or...
From building experience, we can cut the roof and put a metal flashing between the window and the roof. So window can stay as is, and the roof will lower.
Yeah, it's a little messy, though. But we consider it. That's
Okay.
a comment,
Okay.
I think it should be, you don't want to cut up things like that on a house like that. You want it to be cohesive.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
I have a question. Is the driveway being affected, the slope of it?
The slope is not, and it meets, it can stay as is, and we can, actually the garage slab will be lower than what it is right now. So the driveway will stay as is, but the slab will lower.
Okay.
A question. Those dormers in the back you have, they seem awfully small. There room to get them a little larger? Because I think you'll construct it better. It's too small with these little gables, and I know it goes back further, but the image that I'm looking at is very tiny. If there's room to increase it, I suggest.
I think the elevation is not showing the true space, but the idea is not to pass the ridge line, but we can work on that.
Yeah, I think it'll help you. Since you're putting them, it'll help you much better.
Better, yeah.
And did he want any access to the back from the kitchen or family room?
No, because there's a retaining wall about 3 feet away from the house, and it's the back is not being used. So the side of the property is kind of like the backyard. Yeah.
Is the ceiling in the family room a high ceiling?
It's a vaulted ceiling with the dormers bringing light from
So
from
we
the
can get
north.
you more light if you go bigger.
For the bigger dormers, yes, it will help.
Well, we can talk about it, a couple of things that I discuss.
Okay. Any more questions, I guess?
Then if
If,
can bring them up.
of course.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Usually the applicant gets a rebuttal, but in this case, there was no one
Rebuttal on
that,
my comment.
there's no one that made any comments, so we'll just close the public portion, open the private portion, and then if there's any questions, we'll ask the applicant to come up again. Thank you.
Okay, so
Mr. Malakian.
I'll go ahead and get going. I myself like the house. I think it's a very nice colonial house, and I think, by all means, go ahead and do the addition. I think it's our responsibility to pinpoint some of the conditions that we find that I think it will make it look nicer. One of the, we have a very symmetrical house in the front, so everything is symmetrical in colonial houses, and so you have this. So one of the things that I would suggest to do is to, first of all, I want my colleagues to comment on this gable end of the roof, because there's nothing, all the facade that it's, or all the elevations that are facing the street or the roof face. So having said all this, if we just go ahead and with this, see how the roof comes down and meets the end of the roof here? Well, on this one, it's all the way up here. So I think there's an opportunity there. So I kind of sketched it up, if I may, on this. But if this carries over onto this, then you can take one of these columns in the front and just basically place them right here. And you would have a column in here, and then you would have this carry over so that you have symmetrical element there, roof there. That's one thing. The other thing is that I don't know if it doesn't bother you, if it works with interior, but for me, I'm more center lines and everything. So this is off center, whereas nothing in the house that it's there that you fell in love with, nothing there is off center. So that's another item. And that was a good point. I was going to bring that up. So I think the roof itself needs to be looked at and maybe possibly replace the window, maybe raise the window sill height. And I'm not sure if that can be done, being that it may be a bedroom or something, that accessibility. And I agree with these. So if it's a little bit wider, I think it should just at least match the window down below, so it's a little bit wider. But those are my comments. And I like the front door that you have now. I don't know why you want to change it. I love it. But if you're going to put window, I would paint it red again. So.
Thank you, Mr. Malakian. Mr. Mardian?
I'm satisfied with the project with these little tweaking. I mean, I had a thought, I mean, they could consider it, but I'm not gonna, when I'm looking at this house, everything is shed roof coming in the front. I don't know, this gable, whether it's okay, I mean, it works, but it could have been, continuous shed, it would have been, I think, more elegant.
If we can just direct your attention to the screen, there's an almost identical twin in the neighborhood. The houses are pretty much the same house, and this house also appears to have had the garage projected. I don't know if it's an addition in a similar situation, but the garage projects forward in a similar way.
It does look like an addition.
It looks
Yeah.
like an addition,
It
right?
does look like an addition.
Yeah, I just wanted to, when we looked at this, we thought, okay, at least for once we can actually visualize these
Right,
things
right.
more easily.
It's just a thought, it's a consideration. I think the house would look, more elegant. I mean, you could still achieve, but I'm satisfied with it. It's just a thought, because everything, I mean, the gable kind of distracts you a little bit, but I can live with it. Other than that, is just the comments. I want to make sure the stucco matches the texture with the existing house. The eaves, I think he's already going with that direction. The eaves should match the eaves of the existing house. And the windows and that rear, it should be looked at. It's too close to the roof. And the dormers, like I mentioned earlier, should be increased in size. But overall, it's a modest addition. I'm satisfied with it.
Thank you. Mr. Sarkisian?
Yes, my question was, what is the purpose of that door, changing that from a window to a door, the small one to the right, between the garage and the house?
I assume it's to provide easier access into that part of the house.
Okay.
Well, I agree. I think this is a thoughtful design. You're taking a beautiful home and you're adding on to it in a modest way. It's going to be a much more livable home the way the kitchen and family room is set up. So it should be very much in line with the site and so forth. So I think that's wonderful. I don't particularly have any of the issues that were presented are not deal breakers for me. But I think there are good suggestions that if you guys want to consider them, I'll certainly make the front of the facade nicer, as Mr. Malakian pointed out. But overall, I support the design. Okay. We want to go over the comments made so far?
Sure, and then we can see if there's concurrence. Do you want me to do it?
Mr. Malakian's.
One condition proposed is to extend the eave at the right side of the facade of the addition, bring it down to match the eave height or the fascia height of the garage projection. I wasn't quite sure that I understood the column issue there.
Well, okay, so this is what's going to happen if they...
You got to support it.
This thing is going to come all the way out to here. If they can support it, they don't need the column. But if they do end up requiring some sort of a end piece there, I don't have a roof plan, but I don't know how far it comes out. But if they do end up requiring any kind of a structural support, I would use the existing detail that they have, the column and the base and everything.
Okay, so we'll extend the roof line so that the eaves match the eave line of the garage and incorporate a column if it's structurally
It's
required.
going to create a nice covered section in front of the door.
The door, yeah.
And it's going to balance out both sides of it.
All right, so we'll take care of the eave. We'll make sure that the stucco, the new stucco, matches the texture of the existing stucco. For the dormers and the roof detail around the window at the rear, because those are completely invisible, did you want those to be conditions or considerations?
Well, the dormer is a consideration, but the other one is a construction detail. It needs to work, so...
Yeah, you can't build a roof against the window.
Well, yeah, no,
Something
the
has to
architect
give,
suggested he could use some sheet metal flashing to kind of make it work, and I think the some board members thought that just might be not so beautiful, but...
It's going to be a problem.
It's going to be, I mean.
Okay, so we'll...
On a crisp
What if we
home.
gave them the flexibility?
Yeah.
Especially because it's a bedroom, and if we tell them, dictate smaller window, they might not meet their egress
What's going to
requirements.
happen is they're going to end up having a flat roof there.
You could cut out a notch in the
Cut out
window
a
and
window.
put some flashing over
Yeah,
that.
flashing, and then just kind of bring the roof up to a flat section, and then
Right.
they can flash that all the way to, so they can do that. But
Okay, so we'll revise the roof detail at the rear window to...
yeah, I mean, they don't need to. Personally, I don't care. I mean, as long as they know they have an issue. that
Then
they
we'll
have
make
to
it a
deal with.
consideration, maybe?
That's
Okay.
But Mr.
I'm
Mayor,
okay with a consideration.
Consideration is fine.
Okay, and then also consideration for the increasing the size of the dormers, and I think that's everything that I've got, unless
So-
Brad has something else.
You have the eave to match the existing also.
It's okay.
That was it.
Oh, and then you support the staff recommendation to change the secondary door next to the garage, to have similar to the
Handled
proposed.
symbolically.
Consider the red to come back again
Consider the red at the front door,
at the front door, not the building.
but not at that secondary door. We want that to
Not
kind
the
of fade
entire
away.
building.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Yeah.
Yet to see that. So I'll move to approve the project with conditions and considerations.
Second.
This will be roll call. Mr. Malikian?
Yes.
Mr. Mardian?
Yes.
Mr. Sarkisian?
Yes.
Chairman Sermonian?
Yes.
Approval and a 4-0 vote. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Our next case is PDR 1319045, 1135 Stanley, and Ms. Doherty is our case planner.
Chairman Simonian, we've just received notice that the applicant had to leave due to a medical emergency.
Oh, okay.
So unfortunately, he is not present to have his case heard.
Okay.
The board can either continue,
To a date certain?
the board can continue to a date certain or proceed, however the board wishes to do. So if the board feels strongly one way or another, or if you agree with staff's recommendation and comments, you're welcome to go ahead and proceed. However, if you do have questions for the applicant, unfortunately, he's not here to answer.
Because this is an illegal addition that's being legalized, it's probably best to give the applicant a chance to walk us through the chain of events and the history. So my thought would be to continue to a date certain, but unless there's objection from the board, in which case I'm certainly amenable to having a quick discussion on it.
No, I had some comments and questions. I don't mind continuing at date certain.
But the illegal addition is being proposed to be demolished, so they're building something legally.
We're treating this as a new addition.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Still, there's discussion,
I would
possibilities.
like to have them present because
Okay.
I do have some,
With that said,
at least they will hear and well
Okay.
the next scheduled meeting for the Design Review Board was slated to be canceled. So you're welcome to go ahead and either continue it for the next available date, in which case we'd have one item on the agenda, or you would be continuing it for the
Okay, so-
subsequent,
The next one will be canceled, which would be
the 26th, correct. So I believe it would be October the 8th, if I'm not
okay,
mistaken.
week of the October 15, I'll be in the jury duty, so
It would not be the week of October, and unfortunately, our calendar.
stops at
October.
September. So I just want to make sure I'm on record.
So
Do we have any idea what the first October meeting, how busy it's going to be for us?
October the 10th. At this point in time, we have 3 cases on the agenda, so this would be the 4th case.
And
So-
based on prior experience, if you have 3 at this point, would you anticipate?
It could be 4, it could be 5, so
We won't have a tremendous number coming.
we would not allow the agenda to be.
So maybe it's wise to go in October and not get everyone to convene for one hearing, for one case at least.
So that said, it would, the case would be continued to October the 24th.
No, October the 24th.
Correct. So the Design Review Board, we're in September. September. Right now, September 12th.
The
The
26th.
26th. Oh, I apologize. On October the 10th.
10th,
I apologize.
That's what I thought, okay.
I'm thinking.
Do we hand this back to staff so they can do
Yes,
this?
please. If you don't mind handing the staff reports back in, as opposed to taking them with you. That way, we will
I
help
marked a few
preserve
things
a
on
few
it.
more trees here.
I marked a few things on it.
That's fine. We'll go ahead and, if you don't mind putting down your name, and we'll just send
We'll make a motion,
your
but-
comments back then.
When the applicant-
Okay. So is there a motion to continue the matter to October the 10th?
I'll make a motion to continue.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Board Member Mardian, a second by Board Member Malikian. Sorry, as I'm writing this down. Board Member Malikian?
Yes.
Board Member Sarkisian? Board Member Mardian?
Yes.
Chairman Simonian?
Yes.
Motion to continue to October the 10th has passed unanimously.
Okay. Our next case is PDR 1318507, which is 4025 La Crescenta Avenue. However, I'm not seeing Mr. Hales in the audience. And
We are missing applicants here. I know I spoke to him. He was going to be here. I know that he was arriving late simply because he knew it was the last item on the agenda, and he assumed that it was going to be a much longer
so
meeting time.
his fashionable late is literally too late.
If you'd like, I would.
Call him and
If you like, why don't we take a 3-minute recess? I will give him a call on his cell phone and find out his estimated time of arrival.
And then if so, we could have staff start and then while
Exactly.
he's coming.
Okay. So
So we'll take a quick break.
a quick break. Thank you.
does the interior look?
Oh, the floor plans.
Yeah, the slope of the lot is kind of a funky. It slopes down and then to the front.
It's a classic North Glendale double slope.
Okay, and actually,
Couple
we are
areas.
back on.
Great.
Oh.
Our next case is PDR 1318507, and it's 4025 La Crescenta Avenue. And Ms. Semititis is our case planner.
Yes, Chairman
Thank you.
Simonian, thank you very much. The project before you is a new two-story, approximately 1,500 square foot, single-family residence and an attached two-car garage on a vacant, approximately 6,000 square foot lot. The lot itself is zoned R2250, which is a medium-density residential zone. Again, as stated, it's an existing undeveloped vacant 6,000 square foot lot. It's directly to the north of the corner lot that was reviewed by you back on August 22nd. At that point in time, you approved with conditions a new two-story single-family dwelling with an attached two-car garage on that corner lot. So this is the vacant lot directly to the north. It's owned and being developed by the same developer, Mr. Kendall Hales. In terms of site plan, there are, and if you don't mind, I'm going to just
please.
go up to the board.
And the pointer is at the corner there.
Okay. The site planning for the new residence is based on the configuration of the lot. You'll see it's a parallelogram. It has frontage on La Crescenta. There are 3 existing oak trees, so the developer made special attention to maintaining and preserving those existing oak trees, and then also having to address the required setbacks for multifamily residential development. And again, this is only a single family. So you have staggered setbacks along the front. The orientation is obviously towards La Crescenta, and you have an attached two-car garage, and you'll notice here that it's staggered. So the constraints of the lots, the shape of the lot, and the existing oak trees basically guided the site planning issues. In terms of mass and scale, again, it's a two-story structure, single-family residential. As you know, that there is a 3-story multifamily residential project directly to the north. To the south, you'll notice here's that Manhattan La Crescenta corner lot, which was approved for a 2-story single-family dwelling just last month. And along Manhattan, as noted a number of times during the last design review board meeting, you'll have essentially 1-story single-family residential structures along Manhattan. So in terms of mass and scale, it's a transitional type element. And again, it's facing La Crescenta, which is a main thoroughfare and zone for multifamily residential. Last but not least, in terms of design, it is a neoclassical craftsman style. It uses natural stone veneer, not stone veneer, It's actual natural stone from the site. You'll also notice that there is hardy plank siding, a mix of stucco. We have not true divided light, but simulated divided light windows that match. There's corbels and eaves. So the combination of which is appropriate for a neoclassical or neo-craftsman style home, and it is complementary to the one that was approved on the corner lot to the south. That said, staff recommends approval with 2 conditions. One would be to indicate the location of all fences and walls on the site plan, and the second would be to adjust the locations of horizontal and stucco siding at the facades to create a better balance. And there was just a little comment perhaps that this particular element that juts out could have siding to sort of better counterbalance the siding up above, or perhaps the entire second floor would be sided, and then the first floor would have stucco. So there's an opportunity to somehow or other adjust the materials either on the second floor or on the first floor to have a better balance. Those are the only 2 recommended conditions of approval. And a site survey. We originally received a survey for all 3 lots, I believe, for the Manhattan corner location and the interior one. Yes. but I would have to look through my case files. Correct.
Versus this one.
Yes. The La Crescenta, it actually slopes as you go up, as you drive north on La Crescenta, and there's also another slope towards La Crescenta from the rear. So essentially this would be the high point, and then the lots gently slope both towards Manhattan and towards La Crescenta. Any other questions? And the applicant, Mr. Kendall Hales, is in the audience.
Great. Mr. Hales, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for waiting. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is our second lot.
Introduce your name for the record.
Kendall Hales.
Thank you.
I am the owner and developer of this property. This is the second of the 3 lots that I'm going to be developing. This home was a challenge to design because I'm working with that oak tree that is pretty prominent in the rear of the house. So we were forced to design a smaller home. As you know, the home is 1,482 square feet. Again, we have to go with the 2 stories because single story with the oak tree, there was no other way to design a home single story wise without affecting the oak tree. I've had meetings with Ann Sheets on the subject property, looking at the oak trees, discussing the best way to develop around them, and we have followed her recommendations with respect to design and closeness to the trees. It's already been submitted, and I think I've already gotten a report back from that.
Correct. There should have been the mitigation measures in your staff report. If not, then we do have an extra set. So.
As you know, this is a multifamily residential zoning. The allowable square footage I could build here is 5,040 square feet. I'm proposing 1,467 square feet. Landscape required for this lot is 1,482 feet, and I will be installing almost 4,000 square feet of landscaping. So I think it's a good design for the lot and the location it's at, with the tall 2 or 3 story apartment building to the north. This is a nice transition from that down to the residential area on Manhattan. And I submitted to Villia a change taking into consideration the recommendations that staff made with respect to the siding. And I highlighted that so you can see that an option, if it's something, I can go either way. I can leave the design the way it is, or if you prefer, I could adjust it and put siding on that lower area just to balance it out. So I prefer not to put siding all the way around the second story. I think we can balance it out with doing the siding down below. And those are my comments.
Yes, please. It seems like all your sections, elevations, everything is drawn.
The property was surveyed, and that's how we design the homes according to the survey. As you can tell, this lot, it's a little higher on the upper side, and it slopes down, and so that's why we place the garages up high, because those could be on natural grade, and then we'll do a subfloor system as it steps down into the other part of the house.
So, explain to me, because I can't really understand about the site plan. Got it. Is there going to be any retaining walls or anything that it's going to be required to do this?
No. Our goal is to just build on the natural grade. Again, that's why we put the garage on the upper side, and that slab and everything will kind of act as a retaining wall. As you come down into the house area, that's going to be on subfloor and built up, and our footings there'll be pylons across the back of the house with respect to the mitigations of the oak tree. We're going to put pylons and then build a raised foundation.
Okay.
And so,
and the elevation between the one that we just approved and this one, what is the I mean, just as a
Where the lots join, it's pretty much at the same grade. Yeah, it really starts to climb mainly when you get close to the apartment building. There's a little gentle slope about 2 or 3 feet.
So it's fairly even.
Yeah, it's fairly even. It's as La Crescenta
Right.
slopes, so does that lot. So
Thanks.
Yes, please.
Required to remove and recompact the soil?
no, not necessarily, because I'm not. If I'm doing a raised foundation, that's not required. And if I'm doing caissons, those are going to be bored down into the ground, and so there would be no need for that. I don't really want to do. I can't remove and recompact soil around the oak tree.
That's what I was getting at, how
Yeah,
you
I
get it.
can't do
That's
that.
why I noticed you're doing the raised floor for that purpose. I understand that, but usually the soil report also, you have to go substantially deep for the other
About
footings.
5 feet. I talked to my engineer. Not too extensive.
And you're comfortable that this driveway ramp will work?
Oh yeah, because
have enough-
again, that's an isometric perspective, and he doesn't really take into account that La Crescenta also is sloping up. So I don't foresee me coming to the driveway and actually climbing up into the house. At the upper side of that property, where the driveway would go, it'll be fairly level going into the driveway.
My last question, you're removing a parkway tree. Was that by choice to have it there, or is it just because the driveway happened to fall?
It's probably because that's where the driveway has to fall.
Have you explored any other ideas having the driveway in the lower portion?
Yes, that was my first inclination. I wanted the driveway on the lower side, but because of the contours, because of the oak trees, because I didn't want to create a retaining wall on that upper side. It made it much better to design it with the garages up above and staggered.
I thought maybe I'll help you there because you get a better floor plan.
Right, you do get a better floor
get
plan,
a better
but
floor
it didn't work out. And when I design these, I really have to consider a lot of the engineering and how it's going to be engineered. And it worked out better having the garage up higher.
You mentioned that you do not prefer to have the siding on the second floor.
No.
As far as the entire second floor is concerned, and why is that?
It's an expense issue. It costs about 3 times as much to do siding as opposed to stucco.
And on the previous submittal, you had presented us with some pictures of the kind of craftsman details that was going to be integrated into this design, such as the entryway had the ornate woodwork, and it had details, all sorts of details. Has one been presented this time? There it is. Okay.
Be the photograph detail and color.
Oh, good. Good. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any more questions for the applicant?
Just from, may I?
Yes, of course.
I know you're way below your square footage.
Yes.
You didn't want to extend the master bedroom back?
The oak tree, there's some main branches that come out that prohibit me from doing that. So sure, I'd love to. It's pretty much, I've maxed out square footage, what I can do on that with the setback requirements, the averages and the minimum setback requirements, and the oak tree. So the house is as big as it can be.
Are these, I'm sorry, are you done, Mr. Surtees?
I was just saying, how about like a game room maybe behind the garage or something?
Again, I'm dealing with the oak tree. I would have loved that, but there's a very low branch coming off that oak tree that is like at height and goes out for about 20 feet. So, and it's a big branch.
The landscaping depicts the correct dip line.
Yes.
It covers the whole.
Are these the proposed colors?
Yes.
These are true?
They're fairly accurate. However, does that look like a rose color to you?
It does.
Yeah, no, that's not
Like
it.
a pastel-y color.
No, it's not pastel-y.
Okay.
That must have faded since I printed. It looked better when I printed
But
it.
these are the colors.
Yeah, those are fairly accurate.
Where would that rose color be?
Garage door.
The garage doors?
Yeah.
It's yellow or
No, the garage doors are more on the
brown side?
Yeah, they're on the brown side. I took the colors from a Dunn Edwards palette of Craftsman homes. So I
Can find it
duplicated what they
online.
had.
It's available online.
Okay. Do we have any more questions for the applicant? And I know Mr. Malakian is looking up the color. Wonderful. Why don't we then move on to the speaker, and then you'll have an opportunity for rebuttal. We have Ruth Enslow. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and staff. My name is Ruth Enslow at 2812 Manhattan, and I'm representing the neighbors on the Manhattan Avenue Street. We have no heartburn with this project whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on this case that has not turned in a card? Okay. Because, well, Mr. Hales, is there anything you would like to add?
I agree with those
Very good. Then we'll
See
go
what happens
ahead.
when you're late?
We'll go ahead and close the public portion. Mr. Sarkeesian, do you want to start us off on this one?
Sure. I like it. I like the first one. I like this one. It's beautiful. I would prefer second one. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Mardian.
I'm satisfied with the design. I think the new version with the wood siding helps. I don't think it's necessary to continue the wood siding all around. With the oak tree and all that, it's barely going to be, visible. But one question I had, if it's possible, these vents seem to be a little out of proportion. We can reduce them a little bit. The roof vents, they seem big, right? I know this one is in the back, most of it, but those two in the front, I don't know if you're going to need all those. But if you can eliminate the ones in the front, that'll be great. And those are my comments. I'll support the project when the time comes.
Mr. Malakian.
I'm fine with the project. Trying to find the color.
Okay. Well, I concur with the board. It's a very good design for that lot. It's a tricky lot to begin with the oak trees and the size and whatnot. And it seems as though there's been great compromises from all sides to get a workable design that everyone's happy about, and that pleases us as a board. The drawings, again, are well put together and well articulated, similar to the other projects, so we appreciate that. And of course, the pictures that were presented to us, which is part of the case file, depict a high-quality craftsman design, which of course we hope ends up looking with these kind of details, because this, the entryways and the craftsmanship of the heavy timber is wonderful in these pictures.
That's right.
And so my only comment would really be about the colors, and it seems as though that this Benjamin Moore Cougar Brown is much more pastel-y as illustrated in the material board than it actually will be more of a brown. But besides that, I think the pictures as illustrated on the color elevations will work just fine. And
Yeah, I can. It's not.
and we're unable to find the exact color, but I think we'll trust that the builder is going to fine-tune that hue into more of a brown. So I support this project as well when the time comes. Staff, were there any conditions that staff was recommending at this point?
There were
Siding.
two. One would be to indicate the locations of all fences and walls on the site plan, which is easy enough. And the second one was to adjust the locations of the horizontal and stucco siding at the facades to create a better balance for composition. But in this case, because it appears the board is supportive of the drawing that was submitted by
Second proposal
the
as
second
submitted
proposal,
helps
correct? So
mitigate that issue
Correct.
quite a bit.
I had one comment. I think you're going to need some railings in the front for the stairs. What kind of railings you will be having there?
This is at the entry.
At the entry. Is it going to be metal railing or wood railing?
Would you prefer that the applicant submits some details of the ornamental metalwork?
If a railing is required,
Okay.
If it's required by code, yes.
would you prefer metal or would you prefer a wood rail?
I think it's up to the applicant, but metal would be preferred, but again,
Not on Craftsman, I was going to say,
Wood.
not on...
not even an ornamental one? I've seen those before where you have the gate, well, you have gates and whatever, that certainly work in, yeah. Well, why don't we just say then, if it's required, then the applicant will provide some suitable designs for staff to consider.
Well put.
Okay.
Okay. With that said, is there a motion to approve with conditions? I have a motion made by Board Member Sarkisian. Is there
Second the motion?
a second by Mr. Mardian? In terms of roll call, Mr. Mardian?
Yes.
Malikian?
Yes.
Sarkisian?
Yes.
And Chairman Simonian?
Yes.
The motion passes to approve with conditions 4-0.
Very good. I don't have any other items in front of me except for the minutes.
Correct.
Does staff want to go over those minutes very quickly?
Yes, please. We have minutes from August the 8th. At that meeting, we had board members Herman, Mardian, and Sarkisian. So because Board Member Herman is no longer on the board, we would just need board members Mardian and Sarkisian to approve the minutes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 22nd.
I have a motion by Mr.
Second.
Mardian and Mr. Sarkisian, and I take it they're both in favor. So the motion...
I think what you were just referring to is the August 8th minutes.
Correct, August 8th.
Mr. Mardian indicated the
Oh.
22nd. So correction, it's
The 22nd is the one that, sorry. I'm sorry, I meant to say the 8th.
Okay, I apologize then.
you
Yes,
wanna
we're
repeat
dealing
the-
with August 8th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 8th.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. And both are in favor.
And now the
Next-
August 22nd.
Correct, the August 22nd. And all four of you were present on August 22nd, so.
Yes, I'll
Any
move to
comments?
approve.
Any motions?
We have Mr. Malikian move to approve the
second it.
August 22nd minutes.
I'll second the motion.
All right, a motion by Mr. Malikian, a second by Mr. Mardian. Mr. Malikian?
Yes.
Mr. Mardian?
Yes.
Mr. Sarkisian?
Yes.
And Chairman Simonian?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Is there,
One thing
Yes,
I know we've already closed the previous case, but I'd like to point out that we do have a letter here from the Montrose Verdugo City Spar Heights group, and it was in front of everybody, so the entire
Correct.
board was able to review it prior to the hearing as well. So I'd like to make that part of the record.
thank you, Chairman Simonian, for mentioning
Before
that.
you
Yes.
adjourn, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I may suggest something. The packages are well done, but, on these new projects, I'd like to see the landscape plans with the package that we receive, because most of the time we don't get it. And I never get a chance to review these landscape plans.
There should have been this. I apologize. We will make note of that in future. That if there's a landscape submitted, that large scale, that all the reduced size.
Because it helps us, because the drip line in this case was different than the site plan on the other one, but regardless, I like to have those as part of the package.
Very good point. In fact, we were discussing...
And this one, what's submitted? Was that not in your packet?
Oh, the La Crescenta one was.
Correct.
But what was it? The Deer Creek wasn't.
Oh, the Deer Creek was not. And okay, well, we will
yeah.
make note of that. So.
And
I think new projects, I mean, the minimum we would need as a perspective, a survey, some sort of a site plan that incorporates the survey with the buildings to kind of feel
you
better.
might want to repeat it, but Mr. Platt was out.
We're talking about some of the packages that are coming in, some of the newer projects that we get, roundup projects that we get. I think the minimum requirement for us to completely understand what we're getting is a survey land survey or somehow kind of anchoring the building down with all the embellishments that are going around the site, all the improvements and the retaining walls and contours and all of that. Without knowing that, I mean, we just approved the project without really understanding all the components, even though we can kind of see what's going on. But as far as, when you have a brand new project, like previous one on the Deer Creek,
Right.
And that's, typically in codified application requirements for design review board, a survey is not required, but on a case-by-case basis, it definitely
Right.
would make sense to require a survey. And that would be specific to topographical survey, not just a property line survey.
It's not
which
just
is-
the survey. I don't think we're here to kind of interpolate the survey and what they're proposing. I think it's more of a combination of the actual survey and what they're doing. And somehow, if they can combine all of them, and we can do the rest. I mean, we can understand what's going on.
We'll make note of that staff request a survey site plan.
Yeah, in fact,
Not all the projects,
Topographical.
not all the projects.
These hillsides especially.
Well, it's easy enough to put the site plan on the topo map,
Right.
which is usually, I think that covers most
Right, right.
situations unless there's something really unusual.
Right.
I think one of the recent cases we had where there were questions about all the different retaining walls and where the trees were, I think part of that problem was that the topo map wasn't well drawn with
Right,
the
right, right.
with the overlay of the house.
That was the one previous to this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on that note, this was something actually I was going to discuss earlier. And with some of the cases where a survey is not required, it's still, I think, very beneficial for us to get a site plan that clearly shows the different floors in relation to the site, because at times you'll get a floating plan, like I think today's the Spar Heights one.
Even that one.
You have a floating plan, and it's not in relation to the site plan. So it's very difficult to know, okay, where is this second floor in relation to the site plan? Because they'll just draw a second floor. So it's always nice where the boundaries of the property are shown. Then it becomes very easy for the board to figure out, okay, here's the boundaries, and this second floor is overlooking this part of the adjacent parcel.
Which we had last time, I think, a couple of them we had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems most of our applications come in with, maybe not with the second floor, but definitely with the topo and the boundary lines.
The Spar Heights one,
Spanish.
I think it's behind this wall.
Here, yeah.
Just as an example, because it's hard to visualize what I'm saying, perhaps. But, for example, here we have the floor plan, right? And it's somewhat floating.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if they just have the property lines put in, it becomes very easy for us to understand where's the driveway, where's
You know what it is, and I'll tell you why this is happening. And I think it's in the requirements. It says specifically the scale of drawing. Okay, so when you specify quarter-inch scale that is
They can't
required to
put
have,
in
they
the property
can't put
lines.
in the sheet has to be so huge to be able to incorporate that floor plan. I think staff can ease up on the scale, whereas more information is put on the plans is a lot more helpful to us than getting a quarter-inch existing floor plan. I mean,
Well,
small
or if
little
they're
one.
doing that, they could provide a 16
Reduce that
scale.
16
Right.
scale,
Or one, yeah.
put it in the context of the site, so we know exactly where the front door and this and that, and so that would help a lot more than just going down the scale.
Because I don't think we require the quarter-inch floor plans. I think it says 1/8.
Well, whatever, I mean, I haven't,
Yeah,
I
it's,
don't put it together, someone else would.
But the point is, it's kind of nice to get the site plan, and then also, if it's a complicated hillside one, of course, contours are very
Right,
helpful
right.
for us to understand the grade differences and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
heights of the building. You had mentioned some other items as well? Do you
No,
remember?
the perspective, obviously perspective, context of the building within the site and then the surrounding. Any additional information that they can provide, they shouldn't just go down the list of stuff that there's.
Yeah, we try to work
Yeah.
with them, and we go through the submittal list,
Yeah.
and we check off the things that case
Right.
seems to require.
Right.
So we'll ask for sections sometimes, but not always, rendering sometimes, but not always, so.
Yeah, and just-
So we can remember specifically, especially with the floor plans, to kind of indicate where the property line
yeah,
is, so.
yeah, it would really help.
The last item you had mentioned was a landscape plan.
landscape
correct?
plan.
where on a new submittal, it's crucial that we,
Yeah,
those.
we don't ask for a landscape plan for a relatively small addition that's not impacting the landscape, second-story addition, obviously.
Are we getting new houses without the landscape plan in our package? So that's what my comment was, is to get
That's a mistake then. We're supposed to
we-
always have landscape plan for the new
Well, we
construction.
got it on La Crescenta one, but not on the Deer Creek and the other ones last.
And maybe the Dewey Creek one had, the original one
Could
had
be,
it.
it could have been in the original
So it's
package and
just
nothing
something
changed.
to,
Yeah.
you know, tighten up these things, and that's why we're having these discussions. Okay. Are there any other outstanding items to discuss regarding packages and overall quality and content moving forward?
How do people get a hold of those, the so-called projects or awarded project or merited projects that we
The
agree-
good project?
Good projects that we have a
Binder.
special binder.
Yeah, we have folders for each good project.
So they actually have
organized
to
by
come
type.
in to see them.
Yeah, I don't know
We-
how we would.
We have them in a binder. They're more than welcome to come into our offices, take a look through the binder. They can also take down the case number and the address and look that up. Again, all of our agendas and all of our staff reports, including the plans and the background information, are available online under the city's
There
main
are a
website.
lot of those projects.
We have
Those
two
binders?
The majority.
boxes, 2 boxes full of them.
Say about
40, 50 maybe.
We can have
Not
one of
enough
those
50.
interns kind of highlight the ones in the online so people.
What we've done is we've created a database so that when we're looking for them, they're most useful when we're sitting with an applicant in one of our preliminary meetings or any of our staff meetings. And if we're hitting a roadblock, we can sometimes go to the good projects. The board has specifically asked us to show people good projects recently. You asked that. And so it's helpful more. I don't know.
I mean,
if they
they're
were on-
already online. I mean, I'm sure that we have copies of them online, PDFs.
So you can
all
always
they need
search.
is kind of rearrange them so that they're in a different kind of a highlighted button that they can go in and say, you can pull it up rather than, I don't know if it's
Some sort of a link on the website that.
I'm sure you guys. So, but anyways, just some thoughts. Anyways.
Well, very good. We promised Channel 6 would be done by 7:30, and we're about 2 minutes short, so that's good. We're ahead of schedule. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, and yes, just a reminder that the next meeting on September the 26th is going to be dark.
Very good.
So
That's good.
The
following
one
meeting
is-
would be October the 10th, correct? So that would be the next meeting for DRB. So with that said, motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yeah.
Thank you.